everybody, Grey Wolf here, and welcome back to another video. So, oh me, oh my, this setup, I guess you could say it, does a crazy amount of damage. This amount of damage mainly comes from my gear loadout and the addition of the Blight Collar skill tree and a couple little cool little perks and benefits that you get from it. So, basically, in a nutshell, with the addition of the mosquito armor, right now it is currently an incredibly powerful armor piece, which I don't know in the future if it's going to get balanced or not, but for right now, it's really fun to use, and it does crazy things with many different skill setups and build and gear setups. So, basically what I was thinking was I had my gun pixies, and I loved the new skill tree, so I kind of wanted to combine them both. So this setup is actually kind of just a take on my Grey Wolf's gun pixie setup. It's kind of like version 2.0. I hope you guys liked the video thus far. If you did, please consider like, comment, subscribing, all that stuff. Don't know why I gotta repeat that in every single build video. Probably don't. I'm rambling. So let's just get right into the skill trees. Okay, so starting off. Originally, this concept that I had behind the build was I was going to use Plague Storm, which is actually the other action skill that came with the Blight Collar's skill tree, which basically, in a nutshell, you summon a huge poison cloud over the top, and it occasionally stores damage and returns it as a random element. It's actually really strong in itself. However, the Bog Totem action skill is a lot better in slot for this setup. Reason being is that the Bog Totem, when summoned, will be able to activate the enchantments like your action skill active enchantments and action skill start, of course. But also, each Bog Totem that you summon, which you can have a total of 4, counts as a companion and will get your all damage and companion damage bonuses. There is also an enchantment that grants you plus 30 critical hit chance per active totem, in which I am using in this build. It is also very good for your action skill active enchantments. For example, like action skill active, bonus poison damage, dark magic, or elemental damage, and so on and so forth. Okay, so starting out in the Blight Collar skill tree, I took 4 out of 5 in Virulence because the status effect chance and duration, it isn't that great, but it accelerates me building up my other elemental stacks from this skill tree, and it allows me to kind of indirectly do more damage and be more effective because you're applying your status effects a little bit faster. Took 5 out of 5 in Geist in the Shell, easily one of the best gun skills in the game right now. Gun critical hits have a chance to spawn a poison bog spirit that will seek out the enemy that you're firing at and then dealing ability damage. It also has no cap, so each time you crit, a skull is going to fly out, it's going to seek out, and is going to do damage to your target. I took 4 out of 5 in Active Decay because it is a flat poison damage bonus, and the main gun that you're going to be using in this setup will be a poison whatnot pistol. Pretty self-explanatory, but it also buffs Geist in the Shell and so on and so forth. Took 3 out of 3 in Hex Machina, 15% fire rate bonus when maxed out. Also, you will be swapping weapons if you wanted to swap elements of your gun pixies, like the pistols you're going to be throwing. So this bonus is actually doubled, total of 30%. This does apply to your gun pixies when they are flying around. More fire rate, more damage. 3 out of 3 in Worst Curse because you will be getting a dark magic status effect from Harvest, which is in the Graveborn skill tree, and also from your spells, which will be the Love Struck Bow. And that dark magic will give you the dark magic status effect, which will in turn give you spell damage and ability damage. The ability damage applies to the Bog Totems, and it also applies to Geist in the Shell. I invested a skill point into Bog Down because, like I said, I will almost exclusively, but not all the time, be using my poison damage whatnot pistol. When dealing poison damage, it gives you a soak effect or a possibility of it. 10% chance seems really low, but the amount of fire rate that you're going to be getting from Hex Machina and the amount of pixies that are going to be flying around, you will be soaking enemies quite frequently. And your Love Struck Bow, which is the spell you're going to be using, another great synergy because that synergizes well. You know, summons 2 bows, those count as companions, and they also deal cryo damage. They will get this bonus right here. Now you will be getting fire dots from your body rune ward, or if you wanted to, you could switch to a fire whatnot pistol and then activate the bog totem, and then that totem will actually be a fire one because that will be the gun that you're holding when you summon the bog totem. And that's really good because at 3 stacks, it gives you an extra 27% gun damage, which the whatnot pistols do benefit from. And it will give you 36% spell cooldown rate, which is really good for your Love Struck bows and being able to spam those over and over. Once again, Love Struck bows count as companions when cast. Took 3 out of 3 in Frostbite. Don't really need the melee damage. The Love Struck bows, which is the spell that you're going to be using in slot, is cryo. And it just really helps with your critical hit chance. The more critical hit chance, the more critical hits, the more critical hits, the more Geist in the Shell, etc., etc. 3 out of 3 in Toxicity, because you're going to be using a poison weapon almost exclusively. You will be getting this almost all the time. Added critical hit damage, added companion damage, added action skill cooldown rate, all in which go right back into the build and does really, really good with this setup. And last but not least, for the Blight Caller skill tree, Spirit Swarm. Applying a status effect to an enemy creates a Spirit Swarm companion. This Spirit Swarm will... Basically, it's just really good at spreading good status effects and stuff like that. Keeps things going, keeps things active. Really, really good capstone. Okay, so for the Graveborn tree, took 3 out of 3 in Faithful Thralls. It says 18% damage dealt per companion, but I'm actually wearing an armor piece that gives me +3 to it. Typically, it is 9% damage dealt, but if you have an armor piece that gives you +3 in the Faithful Thralls, it is almost 20% global damage per companion that is on the battlefield. So this is actually an extremely, extremely strong skill when you are using the pixie build setups. I took 4 out of 5 in Essence Drain. Kill skill gives you a little better spell cooldown rate. Took 3 out of 3 in Harvest. Now the kill skill, companions deal bonus dark magic damage for a duration. That dark magic is going to play into the Blight Caller skill that gives you bonus spell damage and ability damage when you put a dark magic status effect on an enemy, like I was mentioning earlier. Took 3 out of 3 in Dark Hydra. More companions on the battlefield, the better, the more damage you get from Faithful Thralls. Also, this benefits from any ability damage or dark magic boost that you get with your setup. Very, very good skill. And finishing off the build, my last point goes into Stain of the Souls, so that when I cast my spells, which is pretty much exclusively going to be the Love Struck Bow, it will be able to deal bonus dark magic along with its natural element, which is cryo. Okay, so for the gear, I want to go over the most important pieces, ones that you not necessarily can't substitute, you know. So your main damage dealer and the gun that synergizes very, very well with companions and the Blight Caller setups are going to be these Furior Pixie pistols. Now the Whatnot variant will benefit from gun damage and companion damage, as well as all damage, global damage, multiplicative, pretty much the same thing, and elemental damage boost. So the ward doesn't necessarily matter. I prefer the body rune because it gives you a little extra healing, as well as a bonus fire damage at +20% for a short duration. Now that 20% will go into burnt offering, which will actually help you put the dot on an enemy, a fire dot that is, and that will give you the added gun damage bonus and so on and so forth. But the real reason why I'm showing this on screen is because I want you to pay close attention to the enchantment. The enchanted Blight Caller critical hit chance is increased by 30% for each active bog totem. Now you can have a total of 4 active bog totems on the battlefield at one time. The critical hit chance is crazy for your added damage. The more crits, and the way Borderlands is in general is critical hits are very, very, very strong. So any chance or any type of boost you want, you're going to want to get for your build. Mainly for this setup, because we're using the bog totems most of the time, the added critical hit chance goes into Geist in the Shell, and it goes into, just some really crazy burst damage. In other words, works really good. This is the one I recommend. For my amulet, the real important thing you got to realize about your amulet is that you're going to want to take Blight Caller power. The element really is up to you. I use poison primarily, so I obviously take poison damage. But the Frenzied Wrath is probably the best in slot because it stacks up to 5 times each enemy you kill. Gives you 20% companion damage bonus. I mean, do I really got to explain why that's good? Took Shark's Bane for my ring. Reason being, Shark's Bane gives you the highest gun damage bonus out of every single ring in the entire game. Alright, so the Mosquito's Mantle. By far one of the most powerful in the entire game when it comes to armor pieces. And I can't say enough about how crazy this armor piece is. It says 30% chance on a critical hit to attach a crossbolt. Well, that crossbolt will run itself through the entire damage formula, and out the other side is a crazy mutated on steroids crossbolt that does insane upon insane upon insane damage. And more than likely with the next patch, it's going to be balanced or readjusted, the way that it works and so on and so forth. And with that said, this build performs very well with the Tyrant's Truth and a couple of the other stronger armors as well. Definitely tested that, so if this armor does get balanced, this build will definitely still perform at the highest levels in the game. For my spell, I went with a Love Struck Bow. Now, the Love Struck Bow gives you 4% increased damage per stuck crossbolt and lasts for 6 seconds. Well, when you cast this thing, and it also has 2 spell charges, you summon 2 bows. So if you simultaneously cast or back-to-back cast it, you're going to get 4 bows, and that will add 4 stacks of Faithful Thralls. And at 20%, that is a total of 80% global damage bonus. So you can see the small little synergy that it has with the companion builds. Not only that, it comes in the Cryo Element. The Cryo Element with the Blight Caller skill tree. When you apply a Cryo status effect, I went over it earlier, you're going to get better crit chance. So this is why I went with this spell. And I'm not going to include it, but the melee weapon that you want is really up to you. I use the Goblin Pickaxe because the Goblin Pickaxe will, when you pick up money, it'll give you more spell cooldown rate, more action skill cooldown rate, but it really is up to you. What melee weapon you want is really not that important. And a couple of things before I end the video. First off, all this footage was shot on intense difficulty and at chaos level 50. And my myth rank is somewhere in the mid 400s, but I haven't spent about 180 of those skill points due to the fact that I just really think that the myth ranks could be jacked up so high to the point that any build's going to be effective. So I just don't really go into it too much. Also, I would like to thank everybody who's helped me out with the build thus far. You guys know who you are, and your names will be mentioned in the description. Like I said before, everybody, if you like the video, please consider commenting, and subscribing. I will link my Discord and my Twitch, and my save file will be in my Discord within the coming days of the release of this video. I appreciate everybody's time. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.